at the Apollo in Glasgow just before the Rolling Stones went on stage, and he and I had a few words. You'll be hearing those words later in the programme. But I can tell you that last night at the Apollo Theatre in Glasgow, I had a whale of a time watching the Rolling Stones. For a long time, heroes of mine, and a marvellous, marvellous band. But to really set the scene for you, I can recreate exactly what happened. Late in the evening, they came on a lot later actually than I thought they would, but we didn't mind the wait, and the crowd were going mad when they heard this music finally announce the arrival of the lads on stage. G'day, Jimmy. Well, hey. Under my thumb, it got the Rolling Stones onto the stage at the Apollo in Glasgow last night. It wasn't the only old number they did, thank goodness, for those of us old enough to remember the good old days. Mick Jagger actually played guitar on that track last night, as indeed he did on the track which is coming up in a moment. But last night in Glasgow at the Apollo, they played in front of about 2,500 absolutely ecstatic fans. And the atmosphere before the show started was quite electric. People muttering and chatting to each other, discussing when they last saw them. It's been a fair while since they played in Scotland. But for somebody like myself, who remembers the lads in the early 60s, playing at London venues like the Crawdaddy Club, to actually see them alive and kicking in 1982, it really is a very pleasurable experience. And I'm not inferring that quite a number of people down the last few years have said, when are they going to pack it in? We don't want that. As far as I'm concerned, they can carry on forever. Well, nothing much has changed. Sure, they can't really walk down the street now without being harassed by fans. But last night in Glasgow, one got the strong impression that they'd arrived on stage, above all, to enjoy themselves. There's that marvellous atmosphere, as though you're almost intruding into a jam session on stage, but they don't mind. They let you join in. That's what it's all about. And this, without a doubt, last night, they really did. They enjoyed themselves, although, to be fair, after the impressive rendering of Under My Thumb, the show seemed to me to take a fair while to lift off. I'm not really being overtly critical, but there was a period of time when I sat there and thought, it's missing that extra 10-20%. Anyway, Jagger's gymnastic ballet on stage was as good as ever, and his fitness has to be greatly admired. I know he trains a lot and keeps himself in peak condition, but he was better than ever last night, leaping around all over the place and having a marvellous time. Keith Richard played with great bite and attrition throughout the evening, and he seemed to be thoroughly enjoying himself, never more so, perhaps, than when he was deserted on stage and left to do the vocals by Mick Jagger when he performed Little T&O. Bill Wyman, well, he seems to have developed into something of a sophisticated dresser, judging by his garb last night. Perhaps, of course, this is enhanced by his own recent success as a pop star in his own right. And there was an innuendo introduction when Mick introduced the band about halfway through the set. CCC, Mr. Bill Wyman. However, true to form, Bill's physical effort on stage was totally non-existent. And he punched out his usual marvellous bass riffs from an extremely modern-looking bass guitar, which seemed to measure less than 3 feet in length. Ronnie Wood looked the epitome of the outrageous rock and roller, strolling round the stage, grinning and grimacing at the assembled multitude. Ian Stewart, now that is a name that if you're a die-hard Stones fan, you may well be familiar with. If you're one of the newer Stones fans, I remember an interview on television not so long ago where somebody told the Stones that they loved everything they'd done since about 1976, which greatly amused Mick Jagger. Well, Ian Stewart is much unsung, and he provided some superb piano work throughout the course of the evening last night, and this while doubling keyboards in the line-up with the American keyboard star Chuck Leavell, famed for his work with Sea Level and the Allman Brothers, amongst others. But as a retired drummer, my star billing of the evening, second place only to Mr. Jagger, of course, goes to Mr. Charlie Watts, whose drumming last night was really quite a treat to watch. You see, Charlie seems to have developed an entirely new percussion technique, which, to be, well, absolutely honest, involves at times minimum effort, but absolutely maximum sound quality and technique. And with at times a very cheeky smile, he romped his way through a great evening of rock and roll. If you do have a chance to catch the band on tour, for goodness sake, grab it. I know tickets are very hard to find, but if you're one of those lucky people who's got one, I envy you another chance to see the band. Last night was by no means the best show that I've seen the Rolling Stones play, but to be absolutely fair, 2 dates into the tour, last night was the second in Glasgow, the first in Aberdeen the night before, and playing in a venue which by comparison with their American dates must really have seemed like gigging in a shoebox. Things will doubtless get very, very hot on stage as the days go by. Michael, it's all yours. Mick, here we are in Glasgow, although I caught you at Wembley the other night watching the football international.
You saw me there, yeah. I thought it might be nice to see the friendly. I went with my father, my brother.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, there was bits in it that were good. I thought we was a bit outclassed in the first half, but the goals came in the end, so...
Presumably a night like that to you is relaxation, getting away, I would think, if it was Tuesday from what, rehearsals?
Well, it was our last day before the tour, actually, and I'd promised my father I'd go to football with him, so...
Are you a long-time soccer fan?
Well, yeah, I went to a school where they only played rugby, so I kind of lost out a bit on the football, you know. While we talk, the cup final replays on in the other room.
Yes.
And I got money on QPR. I had to take QPR because all my mates were taking Tottenham. They couldn't get booked together, but still. I think I'm going to lose it. I'm going to have a look in a minute.
I wouldn't ask you how much money you got on it, but it's obviously a good bet. It was. Did you see the game on Saturday? It was a bit disappointing.
Oh, yeah. Well, cup finals quite often are, aren't they? Yeah. They quite often are a bit of a drag. The last night, it's all this week's football. Last night we was all sitting around just before the show watching the Aston Villa. I mean, how they kept out Bayern Munich for as long as that, I don't know. They must have been over the moon winning that.
It was a good effort, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
6 years to hold the cup in Britain.
I think it's amazing, yeah.
You're here at the Apollo in Glasgow tonight. Nick, compared with the film that we saw coming back from America, this basically is like playing in somebody's front room, isn't it, after the crowd's out there? How does your mental attitude differ in playing venues like this?
Well, I have to keep out of the way of everyone on the stage. I mean, there's no room. I bang, crash, you know, I keep walking into people. It's a different... You get a much better sound, I think. Well, last night was a good sound. As you say, it's a completely different ballgame. I mean... This is big compared to a small club. I mean, that's another thing. You've got to be able to do it all, really. You know, if you're a professional, you've got to be able to do any kind of gig.
Does it really alter your attitude as far as the stage show's concerned? I mean, how much of what you were doing in the States at the big shows has to go out of the window in gigs as small
Well, you can't do much. I mean, you stand there and you do a few twitches. I mean, no, you can do quite a lot, really. It's more difficult. You have to be a bit more creative because you don't have that much room. And if you do, suddenly you jump in the air and you land on Woody's nose. You know, it's a different thing, and these stages are small and they're full of equipment, you know, as well. Much too much equipment.
If we can move away from music and from football and just move to your love of cricket, I remember being at Old Trafford in Manchester last season, and a BBC producer rushing up to me saying, "We're trying to get Mick Jagger to guest on Test Match Special at lunchtime." Are you really a complete cricket freak? Because one gets the impression you are.
I like, yeah, I mean, I like one day game. I must say, sometimes I get a bit bored in the county matches. I try and follow Kent, coming from Kent. I follow that, and I like very much to watch, follow Test matches, but it's difficult doing it if you're in America like I was last year. Didn't see nothing. And this year I'll be in Europe and all you see is it in the paper, and I like to watch it on the box, so I'll get the odd videotape, you know.
So when the Indian games start, Mick Jagger will be there somewhere, keeping an eye on what's going on.
I don't know what our team's going to be like. I wish them luck, though. There'll be a lot of new blokes in there. It's a pity we haven't got... Oh, well, look what Gooch hit a beautiful knock the other day.
It's a bit of a shame, isn't it, politics and sport?
Well, yeah, I'm afraid so, yeah.
Now, the live album has just arrived with us, which you're obviously very pleased with. I know that you do an awful lot of live recording. Why the decision to put this one out at this particular stage?
Well, we haven't had one out since 1976, which was made 1975-6.
But you record a lot of the gigs, don't you?
Yeah, well, we recorded about 10 in America, that's all. And we video a lot, film. This is a pretty good album. It's like, obviously, it's out of 25 numbers, we just chose 10 of ones that I thought fit together. Nice.
The single is Going to a Go-Go, the old Jackie Robinson hit. Whose decision to do that and record it?
I don't remember. We do a lot of old numbers. At the moment we're doing, I say a lot, we do them when we rehearse. At the moment we're doing Chantilly Lace, a sort of mixture, a sort of Motown version of Chantilly Lace.
Shorty Long.
Shorty Long,
that's right.
Which we did for the first time last night. We'll have another bash of that tonight.
So really it starts as fun in rehearsals and progresses to being something that you can use during the stage?
Yeah.
Which has got to be a good idea.
We do 20 Flight Rock, sort of an Untouched by the Who Eddie Cochran number, as far as I know.
9:14 on a Friday night here on National Radio 1. I hope you enjoyed listening to the music of the Rolling Stones and the comments of Mick Jagger when I caught up with him in the dressing room. I have to tell you, before the show even started at the Apollo Theatre in Glasgow last night, you don't just phone up Mick Jagger and ask for an interview. You kind of pray for a long time that he might say yes. and last night he did, and it was very nice to meet him. First time, in fact, that we've met face-to-face ever, although I've seen him on stage on numerous occasions. If you're lucky enough to have tickets for any of the shows the Stones are doing in this country, I guarantee you'll have a great time, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy yourself. Thank you very much indeed to Mick for his time, and thank you to the Stones, not only for a great show last night, but also for a really excellent new album. It's just out on their Rolling Stones record label. Oh, and I ought to tell you, they got the job totally right last night in Glasgow, because he went off stage, did a quick costume change, and came back wearing, guess what? You got it, a Scotland football shirt. Well, why not?